movies. It's so good.
It's so fucking good. So we've started, but I'm gonna verify that
It was the YouTube preamble. It's my favorite part of the show.
for average intelligence doesn't have one.
Preamble. It's my favorite part of the show. For average. Oh, there we go. Yeah, I can hear me. I checked.
I just heard your echo.
Yeah, this is for us. We always check all the settings, and it's a good thing we do because yeah, sometimes things go horrendously wrong, and you lose your recording mid episode.
Literally every time I think we're safe, like because it hasn't happened in a while, that's when it happens. When I stop checking, that's when it happens. But
I tried after you did your brief tutorial with me last time. I tried to set up hotkeys, and I set up my first number key to start the stream, so I could just be on the screen when it starts. But for whatever reason, I typed in all of my description, my title, everything. I hit it, and it didn't do any of my stuff I typed in. So I had to quit the stream and restart it to put in all the stuff I put in. It was so frustrating. I was so mad, and then my Discord kept oh, yeah, it was technical nightmare. But
anyway,
it
for
wouldn't be a spur of the moment podcast if it wouldn't. If, yeah.
right, if it went smooth, it just wouldn't be. Yeah. Welcome everybody to the Average Intelligence Podcast. I'm joined once again by Justin. We're gonna try to actually have this conversation. It's the tribute
Hey,
episode all over again, except this time we tried
they
to record it.
they heard my part of the episode. I'd like to point that out.
Um, But this podcast is brought to you by the Down the Middle podcast and the rock band, our friends, Again and Forever. We'll talk more about them as the episode goes on. But we are talking about the Kamala Harris wave. And I was telling you before we went live, it's almost a blessing in disguise that conversation ended up going kaput because my perspective hasn't changed, but there's a lot of stuff that's happened since the DNC.
Yeah, I mean, my perspective still hasn't changed. I will say that. No,
You did say
but to be
so. I'm
fair,
like,
I had a soft perspective. To be fair, I wasn't like hard and fast on what. So
so I guess here's my 2 cents about not Kamala Harris, but the perception of Kamala Harris and her campaign. My perspective on it is based from someone being me, who has watched her since 2019.
yeah,
And I've seen how she campaigns. I've seen how she speaks. I've seen two of her campaigns, her failed presidential campaign, and then her being part of the Biden-Harris campaign in 2020. Because let's be real, she didn't really do anything in the campaign.
not
She was just
really.
kind of
No.
there. Um, and her tendency to fail upwards, and what I mean by that is like I'm not one of the. Well, I do think she's incompetent to a point, but she's not so incompetent that like she couldn't work in a DA's office, for example. But she's
Mhm.
never really stood out, or at least I don't understand how people think she stood out over the years, and she just keeps getting elevated to different positions. And I don't get it. She got her first political leg up, and this is a fact. When I did my Kamala Harris deep dive, I talk about, which you'll appreciate this, Justin. My motivation for doing that episode was actually kept seeing these ads for the Ben Shapiro series on Daily Wire Plus, Scamala, and I'm like, oh, I gotta watch that. And I watched it, and I actually say this in the episode, Scamala is the because it's a 3 episode series.
Mhm.
Scamala is the political expose uh, version of the Hobbit trilogy.
Go on.
It's
I'm
way
I'm
too.
not I'm not saying the analogy, but go continue. I'm interested.
It's 3 episodes. It's 3 parts that should have been one. It's not particularly good, and it's not particularly memorable at all.
Got it. Got
Um,
it.
it is just. I mean, so first of all, in that documentary, in which you know me well enough, but for those of you who haven't been watching this podcast for the almost 5 years that it's been on, you might not know this about me. I'm not really left or right. It depends. I probably lean a little bit more right depending on the issue, but what I am a stickler for is the truth. And some of the stuff that Ben Shapiro brings up in that, I don't know what you call that, a document, the series,
Well,
docu
when it comes
series.
to the Daily Wire, I always go docu series, but yeah, in its intention, it's a docu series.
Yeah, but some of it's just flat out not true. Like, and I apologize for this, but I personally also somewhat. Well, no, I'm gonna say I didn't somewhat perpetuate. I perpetuated the misinformation of the whole narrative that Kamala Harris withheld evidence and kept somebody on death row, and it was only after the governor stepped in that she had to let the evidence go through. That is so not even close to being accurate. At one point in the case, she did try to block the new DNA evidence from being ordered. But if you look at the case, right, I
Mhm.
can see why an attorney general would, because it would have been a waste of money and resources based upon the other mountain of evidence that it's like the only other the only stronger piece of evidence they could have had is a video of the entire murder taking place
Yeah.
with him looking at it and going, "Look at me." I forget his name, and that's sad because I know his name. Is like, "Look at me, so and so, killing people." Like in role
Yeah.
models, when the guy's like, "Look at me, stealing TVs," you know?
Yeah. You might as well have looked into the camera and be like, look what I'm doing. You notice what
Yeah,
I'm doing right now?
yeah.
But I respect that. I respect, and this is why I will always enjoy chatting with you, and I will always say yes to doing one of these, is because you're willing to admit that. And it's how most Donald Trump supporters would have quadrupled down and been like, no, despite the fact that there's clear video evidence, we're gonna still maintain this irritate, and that's what irritates me about like really right-leaning people is like yeah, man. Like I just I was thinking about this today, and it's a comparison point to Donald Trump, where Trump supporters have this diehard idea that like you have to ignore all of your candidates' faults, not acknowledge them, and blindly support them. Like they constantly would expect a Biden supporter to be like, and to be fair, there are cases of this,
It's
obviously, right?
more
But
Kamala supporters, but yes, go on.
yeah, like particularly with Kamala supporters, but um, there's a lot of left wing people. You'd be like, oh, Biden sucks, and they'd be like, yeah, but like a Trump supporter wouldn't be capable, in my opinion, of being like Trump sucks. Like I think a Joe Biden supporter could be like, Joe Biden sucks, and he does the occasional sucky thing, or like he sucks, and you're like, yeah, but like with Trump. Like that's why I respect you and I like talking to you, because even you are like, yeah, Trump gets in his own way, and I can say that about Kamala as well, and I think that's what
It's
makes our
just
conversations history. They
it's
get in their own way, I think.
it's just demonstrably true. um, so fuck. Oh my gosh, I ran into that literally. I uploaded a short a couple days ago that was an excerpt from um, during the Trump Biden debate. RFK hosted his own debate where they live streamed the Trump Biden
I
debate,
saw
but
that.
then
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, so I uploaded a short from that where in the clip, mind you, in the clip, RFK talks about how both Trump and Biden and mentions them both by name
yeah.
in the clip.
Oh, I think I saw this comment.
Yeah, and he's like, he was talking about Obama, you fucking moron. And I'm like, he literally says Trump and Biden in the clip.
Yeah,
Like, I'm not saying you're stupid, but
but well, I mean, media literacy is dead. We all know that. I mean, it's
well, I mean, and to bring the crosshairs back to Kamala, I mean, yeah, I mean, you've got CNN. What's her name? I've disliked her since I saw her. She works at CNN. She was on. Jon Stewart was interviewing her, and she's literally, like trying to not just Jon Stewart, but this is the most recent time I saw her. She was on somebody. I think it was Bill Maher actually that was really calling her out on it. And he's like,
so this is a politician
no, no, she's
or a
she's
pundit.
a well, I think she's an anchor technically, or a reporter or something. She works. I don't think she wouldn't be characterized as a pundit per se, but
I do
she's a
occasionally. I don't do CNN because I find them yeah. I don't not for the for not for what yeah. I just don't do CNN. It's like
well because
commercialized news for me.
I mean yeah, that's the big thing. But I mean, she's trying to say with a straight face, oh no, it was on Colbert. That's what really made the news, and she Colbert said to her, he was like, "Well, I know you at CNN, or try to, stick to the truth and have your journalistic integrity." And the audience fucking laughed.
That is funny.
And then she was,
it's CNN, like everyone. But to be fair, I have an inherent issue with the 24 news cycle. Period.
I
Yeah,
think
I
that
think we've
was,
editorialized the news too much.
well, and which again, that started much earlier, but even I was commenting on it in the like mid 2000s where it's like, this is ridiculous. We now have groups of people talking about what the pundits just got done talking about.
Yeah, that's what guys like. I mean, that's what. Yeah, we talked about. They exist on both sides. The grifters, your Tim Pools, your Stephen Crowders, your Matt Walshes,
Well,
and if you want to go to the left, your David Packmans,
that's even a little bit different though, because those are at least separate entities, which may be aligned.
yeah, but they want to
But
pretend that they're news, where they're editorial. They're not
oh
news. They
yeah,
want to
yeah,
pretend that
no,
they're
no.
news, though.
What I'm talking about is okay. Like you have a town hall with Trump, right? And there's a
Yeah.
CNN reporter or anchor who conducts said town hall or interview or what have you, and then after that's done, they go to a panel of talking heads talking
Oh, I
about the
know.
people that were just talking, and
Because they
it's
gotta
like,
fill time. They gotta fill. They gotta
that's what I'm
fill.
saying. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
pure content creation, but it's like CNN can actually. I don't know why they don't do more of this. CNN can actually produce a meme documentary from a
Oh, for
technical.
sure. Yeah, they've done some
For,
good stuff. Yeah.
do more of that.
But that's what they were, though. That's my thing. That's what CNN was prior to becoming having to be nonstop. But I mean, okay, I'm going to say this, and I don't know if it's true, so absolutely correct me if I'm wrong. CNN has never been sued for their bullshit.
Oh no, they absolutely have. I don't know what
Have they
the.
been sued for their
Oh
bullshit?
yeah,
But like to the
well,
same degree as Fox News has, though.
probably more often, but they probably win more often because Fox News just got. And
They
I do
got
want to.
wrecked.
Well, I want to point this out though. So technically speaking, Fox News settled out of court. They were not
Yeah,
found
but
liable.
as far as I'm concerned, settling out of court is borderline an admission of guilt.
Not necessarily. I mean,
In the case of Fox
in
News,
Fox News's case, probably. But actually, I have a theory on that. I think that they settled out of court. Nines versus CNN 20. What do you mean? Nines versus CNN? Nunes? Nuns? Nunez. Oh, Nunez versus CNN. I guess that was the case. In the case of Fox News, I think they didn't want it to go to trial because then they would have had to have all their pundits take the stand and be
yeah,
under oath. And
absolutely,
more importantly, Tucker Carlson, who,
absolutely.
I mean, think what you will about Tucker. Sometimes I like him, sometimes I find him annoying, but I think Fox News was in a position with Tucker at the time where they didn't want him up there and be forced to tell the truth. Because I will say this about Tucker. Tucker Tucker does not strike me as a liar. He strikes me as somebody who he believes everything he says. Sometimes he's just wrong,
Hmm. That's
but
so
he.
fascinating because I completely disagree. I don't think he
Oh,
believes a word he says.
oh no, I do think sometimes he's that. Not delusional. Delusional is not the word. I think in his mind he's telling the gospel truth. But then you see videos like him being fascinated by the coin return cards in the Russian grocery store, and you're like, sometimes your perspective is off, man.
Was it him or Hannity who said that M&Ms weren't fuckable enough?
I don't know. I think that this sounds more like Tucker, but
Because there was that period where um it's why I can't take people who make complaining about shit being woke their entire personality, because like there's that period where they were like they're trying to cancel who was it, the M&Ms. He was pissed off that they weren't sexy enough, and then there was one more, someone being canceled, they're canceling Dr. Zeus, and there was one
oh
more. It
Lord.
was just ridiculous.
But
It was a bunch
this
of
is
them where it was like ridiculous. It was like it's all a marketing ploy, and you guys are falling for it.
that's the part that just annoys me so much about the right is because a lot of times they will fall for that stuff hook, line, and sinker. And it's like you're doing the thing that they know you're gonna
Yeah,
do, and I mean, you're diving head first into this, guys. Like,
yeah. We used to
and
call it.
credit.
I have a name for that: pearl clutching.
Well, but but to give credit to Trump, Trump falls for it sometimes, but
Sometimes, yeah.
usually
He
when it
says
refers
it
to
because he
him,
thinks people want to hear it. That's what he does.
yeah. But
I
so
genuinely don't think he cares.
A lot of times. He falls for it when it happened, when they're talking about him, but other than that, he kind of really doesn't care.
See, my thing with Trump, it varies on the day, but mostly, I've said this before. I think of Trump as being like old timey racist, like a '50s era racist, where like he calls people like in closed doors, he calls them like the blacks, or like I had a family member, like an older family member, I won't say who they were specifically, like quite old, like '70s, '80s. She once am I can I say this is a slur? Hopefully it's not too much of a slur, but she described when she was buying something that the salesperson had Jewed her out of it.
Yeah, that
Um,
you're quoting somebody. I think you're good.
yeah. And it was very funny because of who said it. They were normally they're a very sweet person, but they're old and they think that that's okay. That's the kind of prejudice I think Donald Trump is. I don't think it's necessarily malicious. He's just a 78-year-old man who, when he was younger, that was okay, and he just hasn't gotten over that.
Which is funny because there's an episode, I think, in the second season of Star Trek that we'll come around to for our. There's a moment like that. It's quite funny.
Yeah,
Um,
everyone's got an uncle or grandparent who says a bad thing at Thanksgiving. Like I said, he's the kind of guy where like you're driving home and like he's just divorced from his wife and he's drunk too much and he said something objectionable at Thanksgiving. Like, man, there's really something off with Uncle Don ever since Aunt Marie divorced him. That kind of energy. That's always the energy he's given me. As far as Tucker Carlson, um, bad people watch his show and take notes. So he's just one of those guys who like I just can never I can never jive with what he says. Fox News generally, anyway, I watch them and because I like to keep myself informed of all sides. So I watch Fox News, I watch all those conservative pundits, and it's always like there's always that air of like, yeah, what they're saying is clearly not true. Like it just sounds not true on its face. And then or there's obviously a more nuance to this than they're presenting. And I have the same feeling of CNN where I'm like, there's something missing here. And then you go and you Google it, particularly with them and Trump. You're like, they've taken something out of context, and you go and you're like, bup, 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 bup. Yeah, there it is. There's the context. There's the context that's missing. But Kamala and the DNC. We have to talk because we talked about that last time we chatted. We talked about the RNC. We got to talk
well,
about it, how we're in full bore
hey,
idiocracy.
hang on. Before we get to that, I have to share this story. It was from back when I was married. Her family was from Alabama, and there was
Okay.
one year we were down there for Thanksgiving, and her grandfather was a sweet man, but it goes exactly into what you were saying. There was sitting at the we were down there for Christmas, not Thanksgiving, but we're sitting at the dinner table one night, and I don't know, it was something politics related. But he's getting, you know how a lot of times somebody, when they say something like, no, I'm not racist or I'm not prejudiced or something like that, they're
Yeah,
about
yeah.
to
They
say
do the
something
I'm not
super.
racist, and then they do the move of
Oh my God, he did that. Oh,
but
oh my God, oh my God. In his own kitchen table, his own home, he's like, well, the real problem in this town, or I don't remember exactly what he said, so I don't want to mischaracterize him, but this part, he's about to say something, and then he does it in his, keep in mind, his own home had his own kitchen table. Blacks.
oh no.
I
I
lost
mean,
my
he's from
shit.
Alabama. That shouldn't surprise me.
I lost my shit. I thought that was so funny.
I've had family members do that. I'm not anytime someone says I'm not racist, but there's a heaping helping of
Oh, it's coming.
oh wow
It's
with a
coming in
hard
hard.
R. No, I'm
It's
kidding.
coming in hot. But yes, the DNC where there where the joy was overflowing and the bullshit kept on coming. I mean, god
My
damn.
favorite joke apparently maybe it was you who said it, but apparently the Democrats are okay with walls when it suits them.
That wasn't me, but that's true. That's very true. Here's the thing about the DNC, and this is why I recommend everybody. Like when the RNC was on, I was like, even if you're a Democrat, watch the RNC
Oh, for
because
sure.
because later when people are quoting it, if you've watched it, you can say that's not what they fucking said. And same thing with the DNC. The difference is I haven't finished all of it, but I've watched 3 days of the DNC in their entirety and part of the fourth, I can't believe bullshit coming out of some of these people's mouths. Like, the facts, I don't have a tally. How often the Democrats are talking about Project 2025 tells you.
I mean,
But
okay,
here's the thing.
but Project 25 and we've talked about it before. That is an albatross around Trump's neck. It truly is.
But he didn't put it there.
He didn't put it there, but he hasn't fought.
Yes, he has.
There's a lot of it. But there's
no,
a lot.
he's openly said multiple times. Like the
Sure,
first time, yeah, we'll get to the whalehead story.
But my guy wants to use impoundment in Article 2 real bad to do whatever. He said he can use Article 2 to do whatever he wants. He's on video saying that.
Okay, that aside, because we'll come back to that. The thing about Project 2025, and again, I'm in the midst of reading it. By their own admission, it is a wish list from a bunch of, granted, a little bit too conservative thinkers, policymakers, but it's a wish list. It's never going to happen. At least not, it's certainly not all of it. Parts of it maybe, but Trump really hasn't adopted any major part of Project 2025 into his policy plan at all. And frankly, and I will say this though, if he were touting Project 2025, yes, I would be concerned about some things. But at the same time,
there's some real like Handmaid's Tale bullshit in there.
Well, I mean, So the biggest problem with it, honestly, is a lot of the language is super vague. So when the Democrats get up there and say, like Project 2025 is going to do this, this, and this, it's like, well, it actually doesn't say that, but since it's written so vaguely, you could kind of infer it if you wanted to.
Yeah.
Because, like, for example, the first part is all about how the office of the presidency needs to do certain things to basically re-elevate the status of the nuclear family. Now, they're not saying that they're going to cut off benefits for, like, gay couples that have adopted kids.
But they want to.
Not every Republican, but they don't. My point is,
but everyone involved in Project 2025 wants to, would be my argument.
But they don't say that in Project 2025.
Yeah, but it's coming from the people who are. My thing is, like, it doesn't say it directly in Project 2025, but I mean, my point would be intention matters, and these people aren't hiding that that's what they want. They aren't hiding that they want to roll back civil rights. Like, maybe hang on.
So see, this is the problem. What civil rights are they trying to take away?
Well, I mean, certainly, if it's the religious right, LGBTQ rights,
what rights?
Inevitably.
This is what I'm getting at, though. So, like, I'm glad you're going down this road.
Vote. I mean, I presume voting rights.
But see, the key word there, you're presuming.
Presumably, well, because of their attitudes towards. It's based upon their attitudes towards these people. Like, they don't believe these people should have rights. So, like.
But see, you say that, but I shouldn't say you. A lot of people on the left in the United States are saying these things, but they cannot point to a single instance. Now, here's the thing. An instance may exist, but when pressed, most of these people cannot point to an instance of where so-and-so said such and such about this thing. But they keep perpetuating the speech. Now, granted, there's probably some of these people that in their dream world, yes, they would love to get rid of gay marriage. But the political feasibility of it, like J.D. Vance is one of these people, who I think if he had his druthers, he would absolutely get rid of gay marriage. But he's also somebody that understands that the ability to make that happen politically is non-existent. It's not a thing.
Sure, but the political for me, I'm not arguing for the political viability of this project. I think that it is political. Again, albatross around neck. Like, you're right. I don't think it's politically viable for any of this, which is why that won't matter to the average viewer, because which is why they're doing it, though. That's the thing, and it's like,
That's the
my case has
annoying.
always been for winning. How does Kamala win? And push and be like the Project 25 guys are awful and evil. That's what's gonna hit for people. At
Well, and
least I
back,
think. I think a
yeah,
lot.
well, and back to Republicans shooting themselves in the foot because I don't know why they would have put out Project 2025 in an election year.
Oh, it's because the concept of it. I've learned I've read a lot about it. It's in concept. Well, okay, this is from the left wing perspective of it, which is like it's big and scary, obviously. So I'm like, okay, dial back. Every person is like it's big and scary, and when you read it, it's big and scary. But so far as I understand it, the you know how like Trump tried to do a lot of shit, and a lot of the worser instincts he had, like he was prevented by competent people who told him you can't do that. This sort of prevents that. So this would allow him to reclassify um oh, there's a name for them, but like career government, like you know how like there's two types of government employees, like the permanent kind that are around forever, and then the ones who change every administration. It basically would allow him to reclassify all of those permanent government employees as temporary, and they claim they won't, but basically would allow him to fire anyone who isn't loyal to the president and
Well, but
just
okay,
get
so
rid of them.
here's the thing, and it's in the wording that's used. So from my perspective,
You
and again,
mean
I'm
article whatever or
no,
something?
no,
So
no, no, no,
they
no. So here's so in this the framing of this I actually agree with in Project 2025. The problem, there's a huge problem with the administrative state in the United States insofar as it's become kind of trendy for legislators to draft laws very lazily. So, for example, a lot of laws drafted in Congress, bills, and then when they get passed into law, they have language that essentially says, like, and this grants, and this law grants the executive branch powers to create or federal agencies to enforce and blah 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 blah. So they're basically saying, listen, here's the law, but as far as how it actually works, we're going to kick this over to a bunch of unelected people that are put into positions of power over the people. And you have things like, for example, the FDA. Now, the FDA, I'm not even going to go into COVID because I don't want the video to get taken down. Let's use the food pyramid, for example. The food pyramid is one of the biggest healthcare scams perpetuated in human history. And
yeah,
it was,
that
and
and BMI.
uh, same thing, both of which are condoned, signed off by, particularly the food pyramid, the FDA, and then the CDC for like BMI, that kind of
Mhm.
stuff. Here's the thing though. The directors of those agencies may or may not be able to be dismissed from their positions easily. Certainly not easily, if they can at all. I kind of think that after what we've learned since the food pyramid was put out, that person should be in fucking prison because it was obviously not coercion. It was obviously backroom deals between the major food manufacturers and people at the FDA and the CDC
Mhm.
fucking taking payoffs. And I mean it was a marketing gimmick. I mean, this has all
Mhm.
come out now. It's like that's criminal. And RFK with his problems, rightfully points out that the chronic disease epidemic in the United States is more than likely a combination of the food we're eating, the chemicals that are being put out into the world in our food and otherwise,
Mhm.
and the fact that there's not appropriate oversight on any of it. Microplastics in the ocean, this, that, and the
Mhm.
other. This is just shit that's been allowed to happen or encouraged to happen in some cases. And the fact that I saw a video the other day pointing out like 18 some odd chemicals that are banned in most of the world that are perfectly legal here in the United States. And then you look at the stats of like
Mhm.
chronic diseases in the US per capita are just so much higher. Childhood
Mhm.
obesity rate in the United States is somewhere in the neighborhood. I think it's in the high 40s, but I'm just going to say 50% round up. You know what it is in Japan? It's
No.
3%, and it's
Wow.
the highest it's ever been there.
Wow. That's bad. That's
Now,
bad.
see,
But I
here's
mean,
the
yeah,
thing.
your guys' food isn't great.
It's the shits. Like,
Well, we
and
get it. So like I'm not here to judge. We get your food, so I totally get it.
yeah, and then Kaya points out it. America is also filled with food deserts. So there's a lot of people
Yes.
that,
My friend showed me that I watched that. She showed me a really good documentary on food deserts that blew my mind, where it was like people, yeah, who were overweight, but also like all they ate is fast food. But because they were in a food desert, all they could afford was fast food. Yeah, it blew my mind. I was like, holy shit, I had no idea that this was a thing.
fast food, chips, whatnot. Yeah, like all the worst things you could possibly eat are the cheapest, most readily available, and filled with
Yeah,
fucking poison. Like,
yeah.
and the thing of it is, it's, and I was a naysayer, not a naysayer, but I was a doubter because I'm a skeptic at heart. I'm like, yeah, but surely they're not putting poison in our foods. And now I'm like, no, they're absolutely putting fucking
Oh
poison in
yeah.
our food.
Depends on what you define as poison. But yeah, yeah,
I mean,
definitely.
it's
Yeah.
not gonna, it's not gonna kill you tomorrow. But I mean, if you look at
It will kill you eventually.
everything measurable, chronic disease, even autism is, which some of that is more awareness and more diagnosis, but it doesn't track like the
Yeah.
sharp increase. Even cancers of which I have another theory on that. I think cancer started skyrocketing after the seeds for cancer increasing started after the launching of the first atomic bomb. But there's
That makes sense.
many other factors too.
Yeah.
It's not just that. But I mean,
Yeah.
I don't think you can make the case that our food is good for us, generally speaking.
Yeah. So, okay, here's my question about in regards to because for me, from the outside, when it comes to Project 2025, the thing about for 2025 that I fundamentally forgetting all the like potential infractions of civil liberties, putting that aside for a second, I can't stand unitary executive theory. I don't understand. I don't understand. Explain to me as how a country who went and fought a guy who wanted to be the one guy in charge of everything. I just don't understand how you guys how people can be like, yeah, one guy should be in charge of everything.
Well, no, but
Whereas
he's not in charge.
my
He's not in charge of
no,
everything.
but like but fundamentally these people that's what unit they well, at least if, my understanding of unitary executive theory is that they believe that everyone should be automatically and default loyal to the president. And like I go, what if Joe Biden said that? Like, what if Joe Biden's people had been like, we want to set in place a team, the plan in which you have to be loyal to Joe Biden. Republicans would take issue with that, right? Like that's as it's being pitched, like this would put in place employees for Trump who would be automatically loyal to Trump in an instant, as they have pitched it. Like they're pitching it softly, but that's the pitch. Like when you actually watch the Project
Well,
2025,
well, okay.
like
So, but let's look at this.
recruitment videos.
Okay, so first of all, I have to no, Kai, I'm not saying that autism is caused by food. I'm saying that it's likely that at least one of the contributions of autism diagnoses being on the rise is chemicals that are out in our everyday life. Some of it in food, mostly like large scale agriculture that kind of permeates into like groundwater and whatnot. And over time, that can cause changes in people's genetics and whatnot, but there's a myriad of factors, and the fact of the matter is, we don't know what caused it because I mean, people are looking into it, but I highly doubt they're actually looking into it, at least as far as the government is concerned, the CDC and whatnot.
Or if they are, they won't
So
tell
many
you.
things nowadays have red preservatives, like, yeah, exactly. Yeah, and a lot of shit has chemicals in it that just like, why is it there? It doesn't make
Yeah.
sense. Because it's fun. I read. It was funny because I was grabbing a drink, and I'm a milk guy. I like drinking milk. But I saw this milk with extra protein, and I read all the ingredients, and I'm like, I don't even know what half this shit is. And then I look at like milk. You know what the ingredients in fucking milk are?
Milk?
It's fucking milk.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
Well, sugar in Canada they put nutritional labels. Milk
so,
here is high in sugar.
well, I mean, milk has sugar in it. I mean, lactose
Yeah,
is a sugar, but do they add sugar to it? I don't know because I
I don't
don't.
know. There's quite a. I was surprised it was like I can't remember how many grams of sugar. Ha, I'm Canadian, but
Well, no,
I
they
can't
measure
remember. There
sugar
was
in
enough.
grams here too.
Oh, did they actually? Oh, interesting.
Yeah, our
What's
nutritional
weird?
labels are metric.
We measure everything in we're metric, but we measure stuff in pounds. Go figure. Yeah, I know.
Fucking Canada. Goddamn. So Okay, here's and this is kind of what I'm getting at, which we kind of derailed from the Kamala talk, but it's fine because it's just tertiary. This is kind of connected.
Well, in the sense that you're right, it is a drum that they're hitting on. I mean, they had Keenan Thompson go, look at Project 25 and how big it is. So like, it's a point that the Democrats are
Well,
hitting. So I
and
think it's worth discussing
yeah,
critically.
I mean, first of all, it ain't that big. It's only like 500 pages. I mean, it's big, but it's not. It's
Yeah,
much smaller.
it's a
It's much
hefty
smaller.
document.
It's much smaller than a lot of the bills that are being passed in Congress. So we'll just
And
put it
to
that way.
my understanding, it's similar to apparently because this comes from the Heritage Foundation. Apparently, that I watched several really long videos about them, but apparently Reagan had a similar thing that effectively accomplished what they want to accomplish with this,
Yeah, and I
and
would
that it
argue
made
like
it easier for him to be president. It basically is what it did.
well, okay, but here's the thing, and I can understand the perspective. Like I said, I don't want it to make it sound like I agree with everything that's in Project 2025, but I get the idea.
I don't get the impression you're defending Project 2025. No.
No, because I think I understand the logic behind it though, because here's the thing, and a lot it's like for some reason it's very in vogue to shit on Reagan these days, and if you I mean you can criticize any president for any number of things, but I think ultimately if you look back historically, like without political party blinders on, Reagan's presidency was pretty effective and good overall. I mean, there was a lot of
I
bad shit happening when he was president, but that wasn't stuff that he caused. And I mean, say what you will, Cold War ended.
I mean, look, every president I've seen a real swing, and you're gonna probably maybe it's funny because you're always like, oh, you're in left wing spaces, maybe you don't see this, but I've seen kind of a swing on some of Trump era policies where like they've hit a point where they're willing to be like, well, not all of them were bad. Like,
They're
and
not
I
saying
think
it. They're not saying it that way. But yeah, well, I mean, and so that's another thing I'm going to criticize Kamala and Joe Biden about. But continue,
well, I've
finish your
just seen a
thought,
lot of
please.
people be like, oh, I can't, I can't think of who it was and where I saw it, but I did see someone be like, to Trump's credit, this policy was good, and I can't remember what I unfortunately I don't remember what the policy was. But just like I said in a previous conversation with Obama, everyone loves Obama. He did drown some children, so like every president's got his probably better qualities. They have their worst quality. The better presidents have their worst qualities. So like
Right.
people are people, man. They make mistakes. Like it
Yeah,
happens.
well, but I mean, Reagan's presidency, and everybody forgets Reagan's immigration amnesty program as part of a deal for immigration reform, and everybody forgets about that. Which that would be super
Interesting.
popular. That would be super popular right now, and I think Trump should roll something like that out in very much in the style of Reagan. And then everybody likes to shit on Reaganomics, except when you look at GDP grew an average rate of 3.6% per year during Reagan's 8 years in office, compared to a general average of 2.7 and 2.6 to 2.7 before and after him.
Hmm.
So, I mean, yes, there were some greedy fucking millionaires that gamed the system, but they were going to do that anyway. But generally speaking, Reaganomics actually
Yeah,
was effective.
Trump was one of those billionaires who gamed the system,
But here's the difference though, and you
which
can go
really
back.
explains why he loves Reagan era policies. I mean, it's just
I like
yeah,
Reagan era policies, but
yeah. Hey, look, no, yeah, no judgment. I'm just
well,
saying
but here's the thing
explains a
though. At
lot.
least at least Trump doesn't lie about it. He said in the debate
Yeah,
with Hillary, he's like, "Of course I do." He's like, and the thing is, but you and all your donors do it too.
yeah. Well, I
But
mean,
they
his thing was always, and I tend to agree with it. Is who's worse, the guy who exploits the loopholes, or the guys who created the loopholes in the first place?
and don't change them.
I think it's a fair question. I think that I always thought that was a fair hit.
Well, and then you got to love at the DNC, and I actually laughed. And Jon Stewart, or I'm sorry, not Jon Stewart. Was it? It was Jon Stewart or John Oliver. I can't remember which one did it, but basically they pointed out the fact, and I'm not joking. This was the order. The fucking DNC. They bring out Bernie Sanders, who spends the entire time shitting on billionaires, and then immediately after Bernie Sanders is done speaking, they bring out the CEO of American Express.
Oh, I missed that must have been Jon Stewart. I don't think John Oliver has gotten to the DNC. Are you a fan of John Oliver? I've been
I
dancing
do.
around it because that's
I don't so much love his ideas, but I gotta say I like his style of presenting the information. It's
I
entertaining.
I I look. I like him because of those guys, he feels the most balanced. Like as opposed to like a Colbert
Well,
or
nowadays
like
Colbert used to be fucking great,
well
and
Colbert he's just so blindly
well,
loves
he
the
just sold
Democrats.
out.
It drives me crazy. Him
Yeah.
him and him and Jimmy Fallon. I can't stand fakeness, and they're just so fake. Like
Thank you.
that's my thing.
You're the only other person on planet Earth that agrees that thinks the same thing I do about Jimmy Fallon. I
He's so
cannot stand
fake.
the guy. That's
He's
what
so
it is. He's
disingenuously
phony.
fake. He's so phony.
He's another one.
And
He's
I've
kind of
heard
like
he's a decent guy. I've heard he's a nice guy, but
I've
he's
heard he's
so phony.
nice. Yeah, I'm sure he's very nice. But here's the thing: he's kind of like Kamala in the fact that he kind of failed upwards at everything he did. Like somebody
He
said,
absolutely did, yeah.
like somebody told me was like, oh, but he was great on SNL. I'm like, really? Because I've never seen a skit he did where he didn't break.
I mean, there's that stupid, there's a bit from Family Guy where it's Peter beating him up, being like, "Stop looking into the camera and laughing. You think you've earned that?"
That's what I'm saying. I'm like, he clearly wasn't that good. I mean,
I,
and
I comparatively though, compared to like James Corden, who is a dick, it's like
fuck that guy. I hate that guy
or
so
like or
much.
like or the other one, I kind of like him, but he drives me crazy. Is Seth Meyers? It's just like I like John Oliver because he's
Hang
willing to
on,
go for Joe Biden.
hang on. We're gonna take a divergent because I have a theory. Because I feel the exact same way about Seth Meyers. I'm kind of indifferent to him. I don't dislike him, but I'm not like, oh, I'm a Seth Meyers fan.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
How do you feel about Craig Ferguson as a late night host?
I wasn't the correct. I appreciate him now. I think Craig Ferguson is very funny. One of my all-time favorite stand-up jokes is one of his, and I can't remember what special it's from, but it's the one where he's talking about how he's tired of people saying that medication is a crutch. It's like, oh, medication's a crutch. It's a crutch. Yeah, have you ever used a crutch? It's a crutch. Have you ever walked up and knocked a crutch out from under one and stood there and been like, it's a crutch? I thought that joke was hysterical. So I think he's very
I
funny, and I think he subverted the idea of the late night show. Like I love the Jeff, the horse. Some of his shit has aged badly. That's what I will say.
I will bit of it. Craig Ferguson.
Like there's some of his interactions with women where you're like, ooh, yeah, this is
Oh no,
this
I
is the
love
mid
it.
2000s. It's
I love
okay
it.
at this point.
No, I disagree. I think it's still. I mean, it's not like he was being a pig though, because a lot of. Here's the thing about Craig Ferguson. For those of you who don't know, you should just YouTube Craig Ferguson, and he's a master
I
at
do miss him though.
improvisation. Oh my God. So here's the thing about Craig Ferguson. I wasn't really big on late night, talk shows unless there happened to be a guest that I cared about. Craig
Same. Yeah.
Ferguson is the first and only person that hosted a late night talk show that I wanted to watch because of the host.
I
I didn't
yeah,
care.
I will agree with that. Yeah, because I never
I didn't,
with late
yeah,
night at that era. The only one who ever interested me was Jimmy Kimmel.
yeah. I didn't care about who was on his show, although he usually had one of the best interviews he ever did was Chris Pine. And when
Yeah,
he's
that's
like,
pretty good.
it is like, he does this thing where because Craig Ferguson plays the harmonica, but because he likes double entendres and innuendos, he refers to it as the mouth organ. And
It's
so
funny.
he gives people a choice at the end of it's evolved over the years, but at this time he'd be like, we can do an awkward pause, we can play the harmonica together, or we can do something else. And then he was like, I guess Chris Pine elected to blow the mouth organ. He was asking, was like, do you play the mouth organ? Do you blow the mouth organ? And Chris Pine doesn't know what to do, and he's like, do
That's
you?
solid impression.
He's like, do you blow the mouth organ? And Craig Ferguson, not missing a beat, with his pipe in his mouth, goes, how do you think I got this job?
That's awesome. I see we're talking. I know I said it. That's not true. Fucking love Conan. Who doesn't
Okay,
love
okay.
Conan?
And
Who doesn't love Conan?
I grew to appreciate Conan, and I think it was after I learned that he didn't sell out that
Yeah, his
I
shit
did.
with the for me it was his shit with the Tonight Show. That was my
Yeah,
that
that
was the
was
moment I
some
fell in love with
bullshit.
Conan.
That was some
Oh man, that was
bullshit.
some
Yeah,
That was I cannot stand it. To be fair, I don't like David Letterman. I think he's a massive dick, and I don't like any of his interviews. They're so
So fun.
unnecessarily confrontational. They're not funny. I don't think
So,
he's very funny.
so here's the funny part. So, David
That might be a hot
Letterman.
take.
No, well, okay, not for me, but it is. But here's the thing: David Letterman is from my general area in
Oh,
Indiana.
really?
In fact, the house he grew up in is not far from where I live.
Oh,
Um,
that's interesting.
Everybody here like just worships David Letterman, and I'm like, I don't understand why.
I
I
I don't get it.
I don't
At
find him
least with Jay
funny.
Leno, everyone reasonably dislikes that guy. Like, but with David Letterman, his interviews are they're not good. I mean, no, that's not true. My next guest is actually genuinely good. I will say he's had some interesting conversations with some guys, like some actors where they were really. I love it when an interview. It's why I love Hot Ones so much. I love it when an interview breaks down the mystique of celebrity and they're just people. They remove
That's
the idea of the
yeah.
publicist. It just breaks them down.
But that's what Craig Ferguson did every
He was
night, and
really good at that.
there were
Yeah.
so many interviews where like there'd be some A-list actors who's on top of the professional world right now, and they're supposed to talk about her movie. They don't mention the movie fucking once, and I'm sure he got in trouble for it many times.
Oh, I'm
In fact,
sure.
one point he's like, there's a movie we're supposed to be talking about, and she's like, I don't want to talk about the movie. I want to talk about blah 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 blah. And he's like, we can talk about whatever you want. It's my show.
Yeah. This is an extreme example, but the Muppet Show. The celebrities really loved doing that show because they could do whatever they wanted.
That's what.
Sometimes they would do the thing they were known for, other times they would do something completely random because it was
Yeah.
fun.
Well, and that's so many of them said it on air, and then there were so many times where, like, I don't. Maybe it was worked out ahead of time, but as consistent and as he was with it for as many years, I
Yeah.
think it was genuine. Like there were some, particularly the female guests, like the women that were on a show, were like openly very flirty with him, and it was because of the
Oh yeah, yeah.
atmosphere. It was the atmosphere that he put out. But oh my God, when he had Robin Williams on, that was gold.
I mean, yeah, Rob Williams was always good though. I mean,
I mean, but
his talk show.
this guy could keep up with Robin Williams at least for that
Yeah, he
limited
really could.
time. So I mean, so I don't know why. I always find it so funny when one of the things, if you want me to lose it, is if you're doing a bit, which is really funny because, oh, I take that back. There is sometimes it happens on SNL and it makes me laugh is when people are in the middle of a bit and they just can't hold it together anymore
Oh, I
because
mean,
the joke is so funny.
favorite modern and currently my favorite SNL skit is the one where it's Keenan and he's the professor and he's being interviewed
With
and it's just
Timothy
Ryan
Chalamet.
Gosling
Oh, okay.
As Beavis and Butthead and the entire gag is that they just look like Beavis and Butthead and they can't keep it together. I mean, there's no other joke beyond the fact that they just look like Beavis and that's it. That's the whole joke is that they look like Beavis and Butthead, and that was it. And it's one of those sketches where like, how did this make it to air? I don't understand.
But it's live
Oh, it's
out.
good.
My favorite too, and it's because Jonah Hill breaks character right in the middle of it. It's just the way he does it. So for a couple years, I don't know if they still do it. They used to do. They've done the sketch a couple of times with a celebrity guest on, and it was basically like Michigan University of Michigan, like college TV, and the show was America Fun Time Now or something like that, where it had two very white college students that were acting like they were Japanese, and they were doing a show that celebrated like anime and Japanese culture and all this. But their
Oh, I'm not
guests,
familiar with this.
oh God, I think it's called America Fun Time Now. But anyway, so the bit is, and they've done it with a few celebrities, but they had Jonah Hill on as a guy who was a swordsmanship expert, but they say like the female host even says she's like I met him at Hebrew camp. And he comes out this tiny katana wearing like a fucking kimono and a fake top knot with curly hair, and he has this voice. It's so bad. It's so bad. But the thing is, I appreciate this bit uh, because I went to high school with people like this. So
I
this
mean,
this
yeah.
like they're
I was part of Japanese
caricatures.
club. I was people like this.
Yeah. Well, no, okay. So here's the thing, though. Like I was kind of like that, but there were people where even I was like, okay, you're fucking weird, and these people are caricatures, but they're honestly not that far off. But at
My
one point, he's like, they're talking about how he's been kicked out of a few dorms because of his swordsmanship. They are jealous of my superior swordsmanship skill, stuff like that. But there's this one point where they all stand up and are looking dead in the camera, and he's got a sword, and he's trying to read his lines, and he loses it. And he does this number. He's like, my superior.
I just love how SNL is still on cue cards. Like that's one of the funnier things about SNL that they're still on cue cards. I've never been to be fair, I've never been much of a sketch comedy guy. I just don't. It's not the art form for me. I've always been more of a stand-up guy. But occasionally, yeah, SNL puts out some like there's some gems. There's some gems.
There definitely are. It's usually, I'll be honest, it's usually the host because like John Cena is a comedy master, and I
He
watched his
is.
episode, and
He's
almost
genuinely very funny.
almost every sketch was hilarious. When Jerry Butler guest starred a number of years ago, like there's just some people that for some reason, and like you don't often associate Jerry Butler with comedy, but he's actually very funny.
Yeah, I mean, one of the funniest sketches I've ever seen. Liam Neeson.
I know which one
Liam
you're
Neeson.
talking
If you've ever seen Liam Neeson on Extras, it is one of the best sketches I have ever fucking seen. I mean Ted, the scene in Ted
about. I was just gonna
where
bring it
he
up.
with the fucking tricks.
I love that bit so much. It's like I'm given to understand that cereal is exclusively for children. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, it's tricks are for kids, but it's not like a law. Right? So if I take these back to my apartment and I
No,
eat them, I won't be
we'll
followed.
say.
There will be
I
no
think it'll
trouble.
be fine. Yeah,
That's such a great like. And again,
I think it'll be fine. Yeah.
I think like there's a when Jerry Butler hosts, there again, just about every sketch is genuinely hilarious. But the one they do with 300, with "Don't Ask, Don't Tell" getting repealed in the Spartan
Oh my
Army.
God! Yes,
Oh my
yeah. That
god!
one. That
But
was
it's
good.
because he
That
can
was
play
good.
it so straight, and it's like
Yeah, absolutely.
the joke for those who don't know, which you should just YouTube it. But the joke is that everyone in the Spartan Army is obviously gay,
Yeah,
including
yeah.
including Jerry Butler, but he doesn't get it. And I love it because at the end of the sketch, he was like, because they're all bringing up stuff that's like obviously gay, and the end of the sketch, he's like, because they're trying to convince him that they've been gay the whole time. And towards the end of the sketch, he was like, even all those times we had sex. It's like, yep,
Yes, I've definitely seen that. The more you describe it, I've definitely seen this sketch. Yes.
it's so funny. And he's like, yep, I was gay then too. And he was like, I had no idea.
A lot of I mean, one of my favorite. Well, I got so many. One of my favorites is the one where it's James McAvoy and he's trying to land the plane, but he's got an absurdly thick Scottish accent.
See, okay, that's a good one. That's a good one.
It's
Um,
like, you're going to. I can't even do it. It's so good. It's so good.
I know. I will say my favorite episode of one of my favorite episodes of SNL ever is when this. I think this was back in the mid to late '90s. Was when John Lithgow hosted.
Oh yeah. I mean, John Lithgow he's one of those ones where he's fairly underrated, man.
So
Severely underrated.
they do a sketch, and honestly, I'm watching this. I'm like, this shouldn't be funny, but because John Lithgow can play such a great straight man in an absurd circumstance, he's Davy Crockett, and they're at the Alamo, and they keep trying to figure out ways to see who's gonna stay.
Okay.
It
Okay.
shouldn't be funny. It shouldn't be funny, but it's fucking hilarious.
I mean, my favorite recurring sketch is on that show is so it's a bit that Keenan does called "What's Up with That." It's every time it makes me laugh, especially when it's the ones where the guest actor on in the sketch has clearly not been told what it is. And like, there's a really funny one with Robert De Niro and Robin Williams where they've clearly not been told, or Robert De Niro has clearly not been told what's going to happen. He starts to get legitimately, and Robin Williams just plays into it. It's so good. Or there's one with oh, I forget his name, but he played Ernie Borgstein. Borgstein. The guy who plays if you've seen All Dogs Go to Heaven, he's the voice of
Oh,
Carface.
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. He's just genuinely happy to be there. Like he clearly has no idea what's going on. He's like it's towards the before he passed away, right before, and he's just super happy to fucking be there. It's so good. Like, I like that shit better than I've discovered I hate impressions as I've gotten older. I can't stand impressions, especially bad ones. Um, so sketches where it's just like, hey, it's they're dressed as a celebrity and they're doing a bad impression, but they're not fun to me anymore. Like I don't
See,
enjoy those
you
anymore.
say that though, and yet Shane Gillis as Donald Trump is comedy gold. I
Okay,
love that
sometimes
shit.
there are exceptions, like Matthew
When
Friend.
when they're
Um,
really good, when they're really
Matt,
good.
Matthew when they're really, I think his name is Matthew Friend. Yeah, he's a he does his best. He does a really good Trump impression, but he does a really fun bit where he does other people doing Trump impressions. So I think he does like Shane Gillis's Trump impression, and you're like, whoa, that's incredible, like that's legit. Or his Howard Stern is incredible. Like when he does Howard Stern to Howard Stern, you're like, yeah, it is. It's fucking
I've
spot.
I've
He puts on
I've
the
seen
wig.
I've seen his bits. I've seen the one where he does with Bill Maher standing next to Bill Maher.
And
But
Bill Maher gets legitimately pissed. He's like it's a bad impression. You just like to be fair, Bill Maher has no sense of humor, which is
well,
ironic considering he's supposed to be a comedian.
well, what's really funny though is somebody actually told me they were like, "You don't do a very good Donald Trump, but you do a great Shane Gillis doing Donald Trump," and I'm like, "Yeah, that's fair." Because I'm
I disagree.
basically
I think your Donald Trump is spot on.
well, it's because
Better
I
Trump
kind
than
of
I could do.
it's kind of because I'm mimicking what not Shane Douglas, Shane Gillis. Shane Douglas is a wrestler in the '90s. But Shane Gillis, because again, I still can't really do regular spoken Trump. I can occasionally, but I can really do rally Trump, which is more fun anyway. So
See, the only impression I can do, and it sucks. Okay, here's my question: is it okay for white people to do an Obama impression?
absolutely,
Is
because
that a thing? Like, is it a caricature of a like? Because he's a fun impression to do. He's easy to do. Everyone could do an Obama.
well, the funny thing is, I do my Obama impression. Believe it or not, I base my Obama impression off of Ben Shapiro's very bad Obama impression, but it identified the speech inflection for me. Because the thing about Obama is he'd pause
He
random
don't pause
places.
for really. Okay. Obviously, you're familiar with Hakeem Jeffries, right? We'll tie this
Yeah,
back to politics. You know Hakeem Jeffries. Okay, is it just me or is he just doing an Obama impression?
he is. Well, okay, but here's
Right?
the thing. Okay. Legitimate criticism of Barack Obama when he's speaking, like when he's doing a speech. He very much mimics the. I don't want to say black church, but I mean it's the. It goes back.
The product. I don't know what you're talking about.
It goes back to the '60s. It's a way that speeches were
Postulatation.
done. Yeah. It's a manner of speaking that goes back even way back to the '60s and the civil rights movement, but it happened a lot in churches at the time. So
Yeah, like
they
Martin Luther
and
King style. Like,
exactly that
yeah.
sort of
That makes
speech
sense how you say
pattern
that.
and a lot of it's funny. A lot of black Democrats do it well, and then a lot of white Democrats try to do it, but just can't. Like Hillary
Yeah,
Clinton tries to do it, but she just comes like Hillary Clinton does this political thing that it's one of the most annoying things. And some politicians do it well. Hillary Clinton is not one of them. Where when she's about to make her point, she'll start speaking like this.
yeah, exactly. It drives me fucking mad. Okay, you know what I realized after we I'm gonna self plug. When we did our conversation with our friend Toast, um,
Which he's in the
and
comments, by the
I
way.
mentioned, huh?
He's in the comments, by the way.
Oh, I got to
Oh
see my
yeah,
friend.
he's right. Obama does the thumb thing. He's like
Yeah.
the thing is, when I'm president, there won't be red states or blue states, just the United States.
Yeah. For me, how I get to Obama is and we talked about Game Grumps before, and you don't watch them, but they have this bit where they have Obama go, "I'm going to pre," and that's how I get to Obama. I enjoy those Game Grumpies. I find them very funny. I'm going to pre, and that's how I get to or South Park.
You just
Matt Star, Trey Parker's a bad Obama impression.
oh my god, you just remind terrible Obama. But you just reminded me of one of my favorite things I ever
I'll go
saw.
Terrible
One
Obama.
one of the favorite things I ever saw on TikTok. I don't remember what it is, but it's something that it's a show that they do. It's a comedy show. They do it in the style of a game show, but basically one of the things they do is they give them a prompt, but then a character to do it as. And the best one was Sauron from the Lord of the Rings giving a rousing speech to his army, but it's Donald Trump.
Oh, I think I've seen this. Yes,
Oh,
yes, yes. I think I've seen this.
it's so great. It's so funny. I don't even remember some of these. It's like the age of the orc is coming. It's so fucking funny.
When I was camping, I had a bit because my mom and her partner, they live out of their trailer, so they just have their internet, like they have Starlink hooked up like all the time. So while we were camping, I did a ton of work editing videos and stuff. But at one point, I was just sitting there typing in like various, like having various speeches written as Donald Trump. So at one point, I had it do it. Can you have Donald Trump try to sell my podcast for me? And it was just like the spur of the moment podcast. It's the greatest podcast. It's like the fucking greatest. I'm just sitting there giggling, and Jordan's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, "I'm having Donald Trump write shit." He's fun. He's my favorite guy to do speeches as because they're just so nonsensical.
They're great. You know, when I heard about this podcast, they said it's a great podcast, but I've been on a lot of podcasts, probably more podcasts than anyone, but then I listened to the Spur of the Moment podcast.
Great podcast. It's the best podcast. But no, so I think I realized after we had our conversation when I told you about Christy Clark. What is it with these with these women politicians with like 2-syllable names who everyone hates? Kamala Harris, Hillary Clinton.
Well, Kamala
Christy
Harris
Clark.
is for
Yeah, okay, fine, fair. But you know what I mean, where it's like that, like Hillary
Kamala.
Clinton, Kamala Harris.
Oh,
Or it's like that.
okay. So actually, I'm glad you said that because I'm gonna, um, Christy. Well, I know why people hate Christy Miller, but anyway, somebody said in the comments, I know why people hate that bitch. But anyway, um,
Because she's a psychopath.
I'll be honest. You're talking about just to make sure I'm not talking about the wrong person accidentally. That's the woman that shot her dog, right? Yeah. Okay, she shot her
And
dog.
then she wasn't finished. She was so bloodthirsty she took it out on the goat as well.
Yeah, I did say. I believe I'm on record saying this, but I certainly said it to Eric. I said if this was back before Trump picked JD Vance, I said if Trump picks her, I cannot vote for him.
There's a lot of people who were into the fact that she shot her dog. Like
No,
upsetting amount of people. She should have been allowed to shoot her dog, and I was like, what?
no,
Pardon me. What's wrong with you?
The only instance you're allowed to shoot a dog, in my mind, is if it's rabid and it's coming for you or your kids.
Yeah, yeah.
That's really. I mean, if you're protecting another human being, that's really it for me. There's no other reason to.
Yeah, exactly. Like if it's a really savage wild dog, then all right, sure. But no, there in that case, yeah, there was so much wrong with that.
Yeah. Which fun fact though, Trump is the one who signed into law the bill that makes animal cruelty a felony across all 50 states. So.
Oh, interesting. I did not know that.
Not many people do.
Good policy from Donald Trump.
It's out there. It's out there. You just have to look for it, unfortunately, because they don't really report it. But going back to Kamala, because wow, we diverted. Speaking of diversions, I forget the other podcast that we're advertising. Oh, Again and Forever. Speaking of diversions, if you like pro wrestling and for some reason can't get enough of it, even though there's legitimately, I think, 12 or 15 hours a week on just television alone, not to mention the internet, check out the Down the Middle podcast where we talk about pro wrestling every other week. And in fact, when we get done here, my co-host Hakeem and I are going to do a preview of AEW All In at Wembley Stadium, and we're going to shit all over it. I'm going to shit all over it because AEW is the Kamala Harris of pro wrestling right now.
Fair enough. It's not the WWE. The WWE always feels like it's the Kamala Harris of unprofessional wrestling for me. Everyone,
Not
there's
not now.
occasionally people who like it, but yeah, that's true. They're kind of to me
They're
they kind of do this as they go on.
they do. Right now they're on a higher point. Okay, Kaya. Kaya would like us to talk about the RFK Jr. Whalehead story. All I'm going to say about this is
Was that similar to the bear story?
it's similar. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's in the same vein. Um,
My thing is with the bear stories, why would you admit to that? That's my part with that story.
that was kind of my bit too, because here's the thing: it's not, and the same with the whale. It's not like he killed the whale, and it's not like he killed the bear. He found it, but
He says he found it anyway.
you don't want to explain it. It's so stupid. So
I have heard the whale story though.
apparently, I don't, because they interviewed his daughter recently, and she told the story. Yeah, he bungeed the head of after he brought a chainsaw to cut the head off of a beached whale.
Okay, now you need to tell the story because I'm hearing disparate details about this, and I must know more.
Okay,
He
so
chainsawed a whale? What?
a dead whale. It was already dead. It was a beached whale.
Okay, I feel like you're willfully missing the part of the story.
I can't explain it because much like I can't explain the bear story. I can't because it doesn't make sense to me.
So
But okay.
okay. I want to do it this way. I'm going to say what I think this story is, and you correct me at the points where I've gotten this wrong. Right? So RFK Jr. is just randomly walking along one day, and he sees this beached whale. He's like, "Whoa, there's this beached whale. I really need to have evidence and proof that I have encountered this beached whale, and a picture isn't enough. I need to have evidence. So I'm going to take this chainsaw I happen to have and cut its head off." Was that it? Is that what happened? Did I miss any of that?
You're missing the point where he bungeed it to the top of to the roof of his car with his daughter, who was
What?
6 years old at the time, and drove for five
Okay,
hours.
okay. Bungeed a whale? What kind of whale was it?
I don't know. It didn't say, but apparently he wanted the skull.
Because
What?
like
Well, okay.
where
You know what?
where
You know what? Thank you for saying that, Kaya. Because honestly, fair enough. Where else? I mean, I woun't have done it, but where else are you gonna get a whale skull? I wouldn't have transported it that
I don't
way.
need a whale skull.
Bro, why? Okay, but okay. Different context. Say you saw a dead shark on the shore.
I
You're
don't need
not
a
gonna.
shark skull either.
No, not a skull, but you're not gonna rip a tooth out or try to take the jaws out.
Well, I don't know. Okay, you're right. Nah, I know. I
I
don't
don't know.
know. That's such a
I
tough
don't
question
know.
for me.
But that's
I
the thing.
I,
It's much like the
I
bear
want to say
story.
no, but I watched a person skin and butcher a shark when I was in Mexico. So like it just feels different than a whale. I don't know. And it was a big shark too. So but it just feels different. But I was gonna be like
Hey, fair
sharks aren't as
enough.
smart as whales, but no, they are as smart as whales. So like yeah, I don't maybe it's because a whale's a mammal. I don't know what the deal is. It just feels weird.
Hey, fair enough. And I'm somebody who doesn't give it a second glance. Like if somebody hits a deer, right? This is fairly common where I live. If somebody hits a deer, um, DNR, generally speaking, unless there's a reason not to, they don't have a problem with somebody, taking the deer.
But like my question about this is you said he found it and he bungeed it to his car.
No, no, he chainsawed the head off and bungeed the head to his car.
Oh, okay. So he didn't take the whole body with him. He just took the
Oh no,
head.
just the head.
Oh, okay, because I'm like picturing like a gray or a killer whale on the top of strapped to the roof of his car, or like a gray whale or something. Like I'm like, what? This feels like I'm picturing it going on top of my SUV, and I'm like, I'm not fitting a full grown killer whale.
Oh
Like
fuck no, it would crush your car. But
right, yeah.
but apparently every time he hit the brakes, like the whale juices would drip down the front of the car, and apparently
It
the
just
smell
sounds
was
like an
so.
unbelievable story.
After the bear, I believe it, but apparently they had to put bags over their head and cut holes out because of the smell, and people were apparently flipping them off while they
See,
were
I think
driving.
the bear story, while funny, there's so many things that make the bear story funny. The fact that Roseanne Barr's there for some reason and
Well,
she's
he's
listening,
he's
she doesn't really contribute anything,
he's telling her the story.
and like, and it's just one of those stories that doesn't seem true. I guess it's just one of those things. So like, the whale story seems like what's the parable about the Jonah and the whale? I don't. There's a parable about a story about a fictitious story about a whale.
Yeah, Jonah. Well,
My thing is like, why
technic,
Roseanne Barr?
technically it's a big fish, but some translations have it as a whale. But
Oh, fair enough. Have you seen Roseanne Barr's Fox News stand-up special? Now, please tell me you agree with me that it's hilarious and terrible. Hilarious in that it's terrible.
simultaneously, yeah.
Yeah, like in the say, it's not funny, but like it's because it's not fun. Like I've just seen the one bit of her screaming about her kids, and it's like, yeah, I get why your kids don't like you very much. Like, if this is a preview of like what it must be like to be around you constantly. But to be fair, and this may be a hot take, I don't think Dave Chappelle is a talented comedian.
Oh, you're wrong. Dave Chappelle's
I
hilarious.
my thing with Dave Chappelle is not that look, removed from whether or not I agree with what he has to say about a particular group of people. Um, I don't think his comedy is well written. I think it's just him standing on a stage airing his grievances, because, and this is maybe it's gonna sound a particular way, but because I took a class in how to like construct and write a joke. I'm like, there's no setup and punchline in any of his jokes. I'm like, I'm trying to, I'm I, like, one time I took his joke and I tried to deconstruct it into punchline. There's no setup or punchline. It's just him saying things. So I just don't think as a comedian in terms of writing, I don't think he's that good. I think he's overrated, and I truly think his I didn't watch his last special because I thought the previous special was terrible. And I don't feel bad saying that because I thought the previous special was genuinely very good. Um
Oh,
the one where he came back and he did the two specials at once, I thought those specials were good, but the one following it was terrible. I thought it was terrible.
well, that one was pretty much him just airing his grievances, so I'll give you that. I found it funny, but I see where you're coming from on that. But
Like
back.
one of my favorite Dave Chappelle bits is is the one where he not the one where he's smoking a cigarette, but the one where he has his vape and he's talking about how he's like, I love you, I love the whites, but I gotta say, the poor whites, some of my least favorite. And he's talking about how he was standing in line to vote, and they were talking about how Donald Trump was like on their side. He's like, you dumb motherfuckers, they're not on your side. He's in it for me. I'm the rich one. I thought that was very funny. That special I thought was very funny. How it was like it was all told in parts of all the times he had met O.J. Simpson. That was a well constructed and well written special. I'm a huge fan of when it comes to stand up, just good, clever writing. And that special is really well written and really well constructed. But yeah, the other one's just him airing a lot of his stand up is just the next two specials were just him airing his grievances about how he was pissed that he got canceled. Like anytime a comedian gets on stage, like Rob Schneider, he's another example. I watched a really embarrassing interview between him and
Yeah.
Tucker Carlson. Anytime a comedian's like, I can't say what I want because I'm being canceled. No, Rob Schneider, people just don't think you're funny. Sorry, man. Sorry. I'm sorry. You're probably not going to get invited to Adam Sandler's next movie. Sorry. Sorry.
But
Not going to be in Happy Gilmore 2, man. I don't think.
well, he wasn't in Happy Gilmore 1, so
Yeah, he was the You Can Do It guy. Pretty sure he's in
that's
that
not
movie.
that's Little Nicky.
No, that character's in multiple movies.
I know, but he's not in Happy Gilmore.
Is he not?
Nope.
He shows up
First.
in, he shows up, I,
Oh no,
he
I'm sorry.
shows up,
He was in Little Nicky, but his first appearance was The Water Boy.
Waterboy, that's it. And then Waterboy, it's implied that Waterboy and Little Nicky are in the same universe.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. I did
Um,
those movies for an episode. That's why I'm like, he shows up at least twice.
yeah, he shows. I think he shows up three times, but one it's like a really, really like cutaway cameo. Um, so I learned something very fun today. Speaking of Kamala, um, so um, apparently, allegedly, and I say allegedly because I cannot verify this. Allegedly, her stepchildren referred to her as Mamala, but apparently,
Oh, please tell me. No, no, Drew Barrymore tried to make that happen. I
oh no.
refuse. I
See, okay,
refuse. I
okay,
refuse.
okay,
I hate it.
okay, but you're okay. I didn't even think about that. Apparently, see, okay, I'm gonna change it to allegedly because I don't think it's real now because you just reminded me of the Drew Barrymore thing. I don't
Yeah,
think, I don't think his kids call her
there's
Mamala.
no way. they're trying to make her into Mamala. I think if anyone had a shot at that, it was Hillary. I don't, Kamala. You can't. It, you pick. I say this about a lot of things. Pick a fucking lane. Like you're either the hard ass, hard line prosecutor or you're sweet and lovable. You can't be both. You can't be both. Like pick a lane.
But that's Kamala's entire campaign. She is both simultaneously going to save the country from all the bad things that are going on, while at the exact same time not being responsible for any of the bad things, even though she's the sitting vice president.
Yeah, I mean, well, okay. At what point they're gonna? I don't know. Like, what point does she bifurcate, separate herself from Biden? It's coming. I've heard tale that it's coming. When does that happen?
Well, they
Does it
can't now.
happen?
They can't. Well, I mean, they can and they will, but it's
They
and
will.
again,
They will.
anyone with eyes would be like, but like at the DNC, you guys might as well have like just been like fucking licking his ass. Like you were all about Joe Biden being like the
Oh, I
consummate
mean, yeah, because
American.
they can. They just from a PR standpoint, they can't, right? They can't. This is such a tough, delicate dance for them, right? Because yeah, they have to coalesce, and to be fair, they are. Like
Well,
they
and
are
they
absolutely
can't.
coalescing behind her, and way more than they were Joe Biden. She
But
has
it
way more
doesn't.
support than
It,
he
it
did.
just doesn't make any sense though, because they can't throw Joe Biden under the bus because then they would have to admit that they were all wrong, and
Yeah,
then
exactly.
by virtue of logic, you would say, well, if you were wrong about Biden, you're clearly wrong about Harris too, or at least you could be. But
Yeah,
going back to the Mamala thing, I found out today. Apparently, Mamala is slang term for "suck it" in Spanish, but
that's
apparently the
funny.
Kamala Harris campaign has been using it in some Spanish-speaking ads.
Really? That's
Yeah, and that's funny
dumb.
because of how Kamala Harris allegedly got the beginnings of her political ascension when she
Yeah.
was dating the mayor of San Francisco, who was
Is
married,
that
and
the
I
one
think
who Donald Trump said that they were in a helicopter together, and it turned out that they weren't actually in a helicopter together?
probably that sounds like something Trump would say.
There's a really funny. Okay, if you haven't heard this story, it's so funny. He was like, okay, apparently, it was I saw this. It was the Jon Stewart bit, where he was saying how oh what was it the Mayor Jim Brown Jim's okay yeah he was saying how Donald Trump had said that they were going down in this helicopter and that he had said that Kamala was the worst person he had ever met. He's like, oh, he confided this into me as this helicopter was going down. And Jon Stewart's like, and oh, okay, so you're telling me that right as this helicopter is going down, you guys are in the throes of this emergency, and right in that moment, he turns to you and he's like, that Kamala sure is a bitch, isn't she? And he's like, the guy who responded to Donald Trump being like, I've never met Donald Trump before in my life. He must have me confused with some other black guy. And another black guy came out and went, yeah, no, it was me. I was the one who was in and he kind of vaguely looked like him. So you're like, I could see why he got them
Yeah.
confused.
To answer your question, I don't know if Trump owns the plane now, but that's not really that weird because I'll tell you what she's mentioned. Trump owns Epstein's plane now. I mean, yeah, they liquidated all of his assets. So, yeah, if you're going to buy a cheap
I mean,
747,
there are some weird pictures with him and Epstein of him pointing at women. I won't deny that. Of him being like, look at that girl, she sure is hot. Like, yeah, they were friends, and it's bad. And he's probably on the list based upon the fact that okay,
well,
alleged. I'm not looking to get sued. That guy likes to sue. But it was very odd that they were like, release the JFK files, sure, yeah. Release the 9/11 files, yeah, sure. Release the Epstein files, well, we
that
were
wasn't
going
that
to.
that wasn't Trump. That was the Department of Justice, and they were
No, but
actually refusing to.
I know, but they have him in an interview
Oh
where
my
they're like,
gosh.
"Would you release the Epstein files?" And he's like, "Well, I wouldn't want to like ruin the lives of certain guys." And you're like, "Okay, yeah, that means they're probably involved in some capacity."
Mm,
Certainly, it makes you
I've
look like you are.
I've not seen that. I would want to see that, but I'm not saying you didn't say it. I'm just saying I haven't seen it. Um,
Yeah,
so Kai, how do I answer this question? Like he, so first of all, I don't even know if he owns it. I think they may have rented it, but I did see it had Trump written on it, so maybe they bought it. Um, I don't know. I'm like I wouldn't, but at the same time, like
I mean,
I mean,
the
they
jet didn't
probably
assault those women.
Well, and not only that, they probably got it for a fucking steal. So like a car, no. A jet, I don't know. That was probably a fairly substantial discount.
Yeah, I'm sure he probably got the. Yeah, it's probably like, hey, I mean, you got some baggage, and Trump was like,
Well,
you know,
the only reason people know it was Epstein's plane is because the press reported on it. It's not like it still said Epstein on the side.
I perhaps, I mean, hey, look, you know me, I'm all about dunking on Trump. I would perhaps be a little more weirded out about it if Epstein had like willed it to him. Then I'd probably be a bit more like, that's a little weird.
Yeah,
But he bought
that's.
it legitimately,
I don't know if he even bought it. Somebody said they might have rented it. I don't know.
or
They need
certainly somebody bought it for him.
they needed a plane, right? He may not have even known it was Epstein's initially.
So here's a question I saw posed about the Democrats. Do you think they
Okay,
would run
that's
Obama for a third term if they could?
if they could, absolutely. Kaya did say, "Don't shine a black light in that plane." Yeah, no,
Yeah, absolutely not. Yeah.
no.
I saw
Okay,
someone
you
say
know
that.
what? You know what? You say that. Yeah, I probably wouldn't have bought that plane.
Yeah,
There's
no.
some
Maybe that's why he bought it because he didn't want someone to go in with a black light and see that he was there.
maybe. I'll put it this way: the only way I would buy it is if like everything was like reupholstered and the carpet was taken out, and at that point, it's not worth it because we have to redo the entire interior of the plane.
I mean, I feel like if I had enough money to purchase a jet plane, I probably wouldn't buy one from the known sexual predator.
Well, if it's a, I don't know what
I feel like I'd have better instincts than that.
747s go for, but I'm pulling numbers out of my head here. So let's say that they normally go for like 40 million and you can get one for like 8.
Yeah, but it's like 8 million, and it's the plane of a known sexual predator. The it being a plane of a known that's enough of a no go for me.
I'll put it this way, very much in the same vein about yellow sports cars. I would never buy one, but maybe, you know.
Here. I don't know. Is it the same thing? Would you
Oh, I
buy a
remember.
very
Yes, I remember, Kaya. No, he did not buy the plane. His plane was down for mechanical issues and he needed one, so they rented it. And they did wrap it in Trump for the campaign, but that can be so yeah, thank you.
okay?
You
Then that's
reminded me.
fair. Maybe he didn't know it was. Maybe he didn't know. He just thought it was just
Maybe.
another plane. That's
Yeah,
completely fair.
maybe.
But what I was gonna say was like, is it the same as like buying a house that someone was murdered in for a
Absolutely.
discount?
Absolutely.
Is it the same thing as that? Like, I don't know that I could do that. But I mean, to be fair, I kind of tend to. I'm a ghost believer, so like that would creep me out.
See, it wouldn't bother me at all. I don't uh
See,
but
too
it
many
is
haunted house movies where some sinister, where someone moves into a house where
it
people
it,
are
it
murdered.
it it is actually worth knowing which my father wasn't murdered, but he did die in the house. I told the realtor to not mention it.
Yeah, because it freaks people out.
Yeah.
Like,
Because I mean,
good.
he wasn't murdered, but he did die in there. So
Yeah,
I mean, it's I mean, in a balance of probabilities, if your house is like over 20 years old, somebody's probably died in it.
probably. Yeah, probably.
Just statistically.
I've always kind of wanted to like, they'll become a realtor and sell a house and just happen to mention that a family member died in that, and then just completely like, oh yeah, by the way, that's the room where Uncle whatever died, and just move on and not let them, not even remotely address it otherwise.
How am I soulless? It would have.
Probably because you move into a house where someone was murdered, I guess. Maybe
Oh, I mean, I didn't kill him.
that's fair. Yeah, I don't. I'd feel kind of moderately creeped out. I don't know. Them dying naturally, that's different than being murdered for me.
Yeah, but I mean, even if somebody was, I want to know what was behind it. Like, is it a violent area? But if it was just like if somebody got murdered there in 1820, I don't give a shit.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Like, if
That is
somebody
fair
got
enough.
murdered last week, I'm not buying that house. But
Um, so to go back to the DNC, I mean, we joked about it, but they really did try to and I've noticed this generally. Maybe you'll agree with if we talked about this last time in the lost episode, but there seems to be, and I definitely noticed it in the DNC, there seems to be a push towards utilizing Republican strategy for certain things. And
strategy and policy. Well, because they keep okay.
yeah.
For example, the Biden administration keeps touting about how they capped. Well, okay, so there's two things they're doing that really annoy the shit out of me. They keep saying that they capped insulin at $35, which as a policy, I'm all for it as a policy. Here's the only problem though. Trump did it first. And then Biden, when he got into office, repealed it through executive order, repealed it, and then did it again.
I
And now
mean,
he's and that and but here's the
people.
other thing. It's not so the way they talk, which they finally started because I think they finally got called out for it because now they're being specific.
Mhm.
It's capped at $35 for people that have Medicare because they technically can't do that just in the general market. Um, and
Mhm.
they act like and it is a big deal for seniors. My mom's one of them, and it's a very good thing. But they're making it sound like a much bigger deal than it actually is.
Yeah.
But it's also the only thing they can do, right? Like because they
Oh, for
can't
sure.
influence the market like that. Um,
See, my thing is, and I said this the last time, and I maintain it. I just, as sad as it is, and as much, you know me, I fully demonstrated I'm a policy guy all the way. I vote based on policy, but I just don't think that the American people are gonna this time. I think this is going to be a once again. This was my position last time. It has not changed. It is going to be a referendum on personality. I maintain that.
it is, and
You can,
that's why it'll be such a close race because if it were strictly on policy, Kamala will lose. But it's
for
like you
sure.
said, if it's going to be on person, because Kamala still hasn't really laid out a policy. She's laid out some intentions, but
Yeah.
she has yet to say how she's going to implement them. She has yet to lay out any like legitimate policy in
Did they
terms
put out
like
their? They did put out their platform though, right? Right before the DNC or during the.
yeah, and they didn't take Joe Biden's name out of it.
I heard that. I heard they didn't take Joe Biden's name out of
She
it.
slipped it right
I
there.
thought that was hilarious. I was
Oh
like,
my
that's
god! But
embarrassing.
she's okay. But she's acting like it's a different plan. He's just so if you're voting for Kamala based on that document, you're just voting for Joe Biden again. So the
Yeah, you're
surge
just
in
voting.
popularity doesn't make any sense.
But
Oh,
um,
you were making a point. I apologize.
oh, I was gonna say to your point about it was a point to go back to one of your earlier points where you mentioned how Kamala is boring or he doesn't really have much of a personality. I think that's to her benefit because I think that's what Americans want. I truly I have optimism that your country is sort of starting to reject cult of personality or colorfully based politicians. Like I think it seems to me that you guys are craving for a politician who's boring.
I
For a
love that.
president who is boring and uninteresting
I
and you
yearn
don't hear
for
about every other week.
Calvin Coolidge.
Like
I want
my thing is ultimately, and I've said this, I've asked you this question before, but I refuse to believe that even the most diehard Trump supporter doesn't get exhausted from defending him all the time. Like, surely
no,
there's
they love it.
you want a politician that's just boring, right?
No,
Just
they
boring and
love
uninteresting.
they love defending him. I don't, but it's the same people that defend insert Democrat lawmaker here or Democrat politician here. It's become part of their personality, and they literally don't know what to do without it. And that's what's really sad is the fact that people's politics have become so integral to their identity that when a politician, regardless of party or platform, is legitimately proven
Yeah,
wrong or bad, they cannot cope and they defend indefensible things. And this is true for both parties. Like it's the same with
yeah.
like people were literally with a straight face to pick on Joe Biden. They were like, "No, he's mentally sharp as he's ever been." I'm like, "That's not fucking true."
I mean,
Like
I mean, his speech at the DNC looked like they gave him a bump of cocaine and pushed him on stage.
I mean basically
What?
and then to pick on Donald Trump, he fucked a porn star. He did it. He says he didn't do
Yeah.
it, but I mean, come on.
I've discovered in my 30s a thing that I've discovered drives me crazy is unnecessary lies. Like
Yes.
just lies you don't have to say. Like you could have just said the truth. There's no point you lying. That's my thing with Donald Trump is if Donald Trump were capable of saying he was wrong, his political career would like if
Yeah.
he could just be like, yeah, you know what? That was my bad. I said that thing wrong. I
Yeah.
flubbed that. People flub, man. Flubbing is fine. We flub
All the
constantly. I
time.
flub
I
all the
flub
time.
constantly.
Yeah, and it's his inability to admit that he flubs that is what I again truly believe that what holds him back politically. He
It's one of the many things, but I do want to correct one thing you said. It's not that Kamala's boring. Kamala is legitimately one of the fakest politicians I've ever seen in my life. Like I know, Jordan. It is funny.
Right. Oh, can you hear me in the background laughing?
I heard him laughing
Yeah.
about something.
Yeah, that's funny. That just goes to show how good that mic is. He's clear in the other room if you can hear that. Like,
I know he was, but that was funny. Um, the thing is, though, and this is very anecdotal, but it's been fairly accurate. Sometimes I'll just see somebody and I can't put my finger on the exact why, but I'm usually proven right. She's full of shit. And I can
oh, I
demonstrate.
mean, yeah,
I can demonstrate with her, but like the first time I saw her, I was like, I don't like her because she seems fake. She comes across as very fake. The way she speaks
yeah.
is, I mean, it's not RFK nails on a chalkboard, but it is annoying. And it's just so fucking fake. And I can't believe people buy it.
My
Like,
thing with her is her moments where she's trying. I don't know how to put it. The one thing I respected about Hillary Clinton, or I guess I still respect about Hillary Clinton, is an awful bitch, but she doesn't pretend to be anything other than an awful bitch.
I mean,
Like
fair.
she is. I am almost entirely positive well, I mean, I always joke that I didn't believe in the lizard conspiracy until I saw her speak, but I genuinely believe that she is that way off of stage. Whereas Kamala, I get the feeling that like she gets off stage and she doesn't speak to the help. Like she's not the interns have never spoken to her. Like
Well,
I
no,
get
and
that vibe from her.
there's people from past campaigns that say that exact thing. But unfortunately, I got to start wrapping it up because we got another podcast to slide into. But I do want to touch
Fair
on one.
enough.
I do want to touch on one thing though, because recently it was announced that RFK Jr. is suspending his campaign and he has endorsed Donald Trump. And it looks like, could
His
Donald
family's
Trump?
not happy about that.
What's that?
I said his family's not happy about it.
Well, his family can suck a dick because I mean, frankly,
They came out and they were all like, "We don't like this," and we've all signed it.
okay, but you don't have any say on what your brother believes in or does, so fuck off. That would be like my sister saying you can't vote for Trump or whoever you want to vote for. I'd be like, shut up. Except I think she's voting for Trump, but I don't want to speak for her because I don't know. But you know what I mean? It would be like my
Yeah.
sister. It would be like my sister coming out and saying it's like, well, I don't support his political ideas. It's like, okay, I don't
All right
give
then.
a shit. Like, who cares? I mean, I get there's some weight to the Kennedy name, but I mean, he was born with it. He didn't ask for it. And I
Yeah.
mean, based on what I know about his uncle and his father, kind of do think they would be disgusted with the Democratic Party of today. I really do.
I mean, I
Certain
mean,
aspects.
so maybe. I mean, they sure love their secret affair. So maybe they would probably align more with the Republican in that regard.
They'd
Uh,
certainly understand Trump.
I, I definitely feel like perhaps that, yeah, in modern times. Oh man, this feels like a dig at Marilyn Monroe. But I feel like JFK would have fucked a porn star. Like I
I
just I
mean,
just feel like he would have.
I mean, technically, said I chose to pay that woman off not because it was easy, but because I was hot.
Oh, Kennedy. They were a horny bunch. I just think of Clone Hyatt. I'm a Kennedy. I'm not accustomed to tragedy. I'm
But
just look. I did see that I didn't realize he had dropped out. I'm surprised he dropped out. That
I'm
tells me that he knew he was gonna pull votes from Trump. That's what that
he
tells me.
came well, yeah, he came out and said it basically. In
Yeah.
certain battleground. What he said, I'm paraphrasing, is he said that he couldn't ask his campaign to, keep working, keep donating money and all that if he didn't see a clear path to victory, and he no longer sees that. And in certain battleground states, He said the polling numbers we're seeing is that there may be a high probability of me playing spoiler enough that it could possibly sway the election. So what he's doing is, and I think it was 10 battleground states, he's removing himself from the ballot. There's still a reason, if you're not in a battleground state, there is still a reason to vote for him because as um, the election law goes, if a third party or independent candidate I'm sorry, gets a certain percentage of the popular vote, they are automatically in the debate cycle and on all 50 state ballots because the libertarians did it in 2012 or 20, I think they did it in 2016. So that in 2020, the libertarians were on every ballot automatically because they got, I think it was 5%. And they ended up getting like 6% of the popular vote. I don't remember the numbers. So there is actually still a reason to vote for him if you're not in a
Interesting. So
battleground state.
him dropping out. And just real quick, because I didn't understand why this was a bad thing, but so him dropping out, could it have anything to do with the fact that that clip leaked of him on the phone with Trump promising him a cabinet position?
No, I think they really. I mean, they've been very transparent about.
Well,
Um,
because they released that his son or someone related to him released that he didn't want it released, and he like came out and like apologized for it,
well,
and
he
I couldn't
probably
figure out
didn't.
why he was apologizing.
Well,
I don't understand why this is a big deal.
he probably didn't want it released yet because apparently they were still negotiating and talking when that clip was leaked. That's how everybody knew that there were discussions happening. I think they didn't want it leaked until they had, sort of come up with a deal, which I'm fine with. I would actually like RFK Jr. to be in some capacity able to kind of rein in some of these federal agencies because that's sort of been his. We were talking about all the poison in food earlier. That's something he's been fighting since, he got his fucking
Yeah.
since he passed the bar. So I would actually be all for. It's one of the reasons I was considering voting for RFK Jr. is because he promised to take on, like big agra, big pharma, and all that stuff. And I mean, he might actually be more effective as somebody who can rein in agencies as part of Trump's cabinet rather than being
Hmm.
president. If we're being honest, he might be more
Yeah.
effective there. So
Yeah.
I'd
That's
be
what a
all
lot of
for
people
that.
say that. A lot of politicians, that's why they tend to gravitate towards being in the cabinet rather than being president, because the president by design is not supposed to have well, I'm sure
He's
the
not
Donald Trump
supposed.
campaign may agree, not supposed to have a
Well,
ton
but
of power.
unfortunately, there's just every administration has seemed to grab more and more power through various means, and
Yeah.
particularly since the Patriot Act. But
Yes,
that
that
being
I did see someone say that specifically was the Patriot Act that changed that the entire viewpoint of the executive branch.
that was a big one. That was a very big one. But especially if you're kind of have like a really big policy issue that's kind of your focal point, you are
Yeah.
almost better. Like for example, for like let's say Pete Buttigieg was like really running on like fixing infrastructure. He
Yeah.
might actually be more effective at doing that as the Secretary
See,
of Transportation.
I wanted her. I love Pete Buttigieg. I
Oh, I
wanted her to
hate
pick
that.
him. I
I
see.
hate that
I
guy.
like I like a guy who's willing to like get in there and like not be afraid to like to get in there with people who I respect the fact that that he gets on Fox News and
See,
he
I
like
do. I'll give credit where credit's due. I do respect that. I just find it hilarious, which you'd have to be from Indiana to understand why. I just find it hilarious that the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, was was named the fucking Secretary of Transportation. That is fucking hilarious.
fair enough. That feels like a local reference that
It
I.
it is because
To
he
be
was
fair, to be
mayor of.
fair,
Yeah,
you had to put up with a ton of Canadian local references. So,
I mean,
um,
it's hilarious, but I guess in closing, I still maintain the bottom's going to fall out of this campaign. It might take some time, but it's been 35 some odd days since Kamala Harris has gone 35 some odd days since she became the presumptive nominee and now the official nominee without having a serious, unscripted interview or debate or talking to
see,
reporters in any capacity.
to wrap up my ultimate position is I've said the analogy I would use is to me this is like Rocky 4 or like Rocky 3. Um, I don't know if Kamala's Rocky in this analogy. This may be
We'll
where the
find
analogy
out.
falls apart. But we're in the back half of the fight where like Drago expected this to be an easy fight. He expected to just destroy, and the announcer's like, "This is a fight. This is where I'm at." Like I just from my perspective, it does not look like Donald Trump. It looked like Donald Trump was prepared to take out Joe Biden. He doesn't look prepared for her.
And that's fair
Um, and
to a
and
point.
I just don't see him all of the hits they're trying to hit her on. You're right. They need to hit her on policy. They're not, and that's where the weakness is. That's where the failure in the campaign is for me. Like that, there's a clip of Donald Trump being like, "They want me to hit her on policy, but nah, I don't want to. Why should I?" That attitude is going to lose him the presidency. That's my position, and it's not that I think Kamala. I don't think this is a slam dunk. I'm not going to sit here and be like, I think she's going to win. I just don't think it's as sure a thing as they think. But to wrap up real quick, I just want to thank you for like you're the one of the few Americans who will entertain what I have to say about your politics without telling me to. I got told by so many Americans to shut the fuck up and keep my Canadian opinion to myself. So I appreciate that you're willing to like entertain my socialist Canadian ideas, my radical Canadian socialist ideas.
But yeah,
Oh,
man,
I also respect. I want to shout out. I want to shout out Ghost for also
oh,
entertaining my
toast.
radical socialist. Yeah, Toast for entertaining my radical socialist ideas. I respect that. I respect anyone who's willing to listen to my.
Well, that's one of the reasons I get along with and respect Toast is the fact that we could have vastly different ideas, but we can debate them and not only remain civil, but still crack jokes while doing it, which
Yeah,
everything stays in good humor. And the worst it's ever been is like, I don't know, man, I just don't see it that way. Like that's
yeah.
the worst
Me
thing.
and Jordan said that the world needs to be more people like me and you. So like this is how the world moves forward, where we don't agree with each other, but like we find the common ground, and that's how the world. That's how I see the world moving forward. Anyway, but yeah. Anyway,
Well,
yeah.
it's a
I always love being on here.
it's a it's a skill set that unfortunately is not very popular, but like the thing of it is if two people can come together and despite their differences if they can agree on stuff that tells me that's a good policy.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I
If
tend to agree.
two opposite people, but yeah, we'll wrap it up here. I last sponsorship spot, our friends at Again and Forever, one of my personal favorite bands now because you know how somebody says, "Oh,
I'm a fan.
it's like, oh, you got to check out this band. They're so good." And 9 times out of 10, you listen to it and it's the shits. This was not the case. I listened to it and I was like,
My
okay,
thing
this
with
is
Again and
something.
Forever, well, with it always feels slightly nepotistic to be like, oh, he's my friend, he's crazy talented, and the music is like, but it is the music is legitimately good, and like I really like his their take on all the things she said. I know he doesn't love it.
I know, and it's so
I
funny.
think
He doesn't like that song, and I'm like, this is a
he's
banger,
so
dude.
wrong. I hate to tell him he's wrong about his own music, but like that is a legitimately interesting take.
Yeah,
Um,
I love that. And then my favorite song on there's actually is Kamikaze from their first album. That's
oh,
another
I did
song.
hear that. That was the first one I listened to.
It's
I was like,
another
oh,
song that he doesn't like. Now he did say he wants to redo it, change up the drums a little bit, and modernize the guitar. And I said, oh, okay, that'll probably be good. But I'm just saying, like, it's a really good song.
I like him because I don't love my shit overly screamy. And I enjoy how his stuff's not overly screamy. And I, yeah, genuinely, we I feel like we're fluffing Virus's ego, but like
Oh, he
I
loves it.
genuinely think his stuff is good.
He loves it. Yeah. So check out Again and Forever and Down the Middle podcast, and let us know in the comments whether you think Kamala will pull it off and why, or whether you think the floor will fall out from under the campaign. Which I mean, it's happened already. So yeah, we'll
We'll
see.
come back closer to November and we'll do like a I guess a part four, but as far as the audience is concerned, a part three.
Well, I want to do, yeah, I want to get, like I said, because I talked to you and Toast on the Arte podcast, I really want to get when Eric is back. I want to get the four of us because it is literally like a full political spectrum. Like Eric is, I'm not going to say he's far right, but Eric's like very right leaning conservative. Toast is more right leaning, but, likes things like universal health care and,
Yeah,
drug legalization or
so,
decriminalization, all that. Which
some of those radical.
well, Eric's a proponent of drug decriminalization too. And then I'm like right in the middle, generally speaking, depends on the policy. And then you're a little bit more left leaning, although I wouldn't go
I
so
consider
far.
myself I consider myself kind of off. I see a lot of myself in you in the sense that you consider yourself center right. I consider myself center left. So I'm
That's
like
fair.
you, but instead of leaning right, I lean left.
Yeah, that's fair. And I don't know any hardcore leftists that would be on this podcast, so we
I
invite
can't
them. We invite them at every turn, but they never show.
I know a few hardcore leftists. I don't know that they would show up here, but
Probably not.
I know a few.
All right. Well, thank you guys for enjoying this episode of the Average Intelligence Podcast. Hopefully, you're a little bit less average and a little bit more intelligent. This one, maybe. This was a fairly good one.
I
Um,
also consider myself of average intelligence, which is why I fit in so well.
I love how people say that to us as though it's an insult. And it's like, no, I didn't. We didn't name our podcast that for a reason, So,
Yeah.
but anyway, we will see you guys next week. Please like, share, and subscribe.